Shabbat Shalom. We come to a new beginning in the Torah as we begin again the book of Bereshit of Genesis. And as we turn to a new year, a new reading through of the Torah, and also a somewhat sadder anniversary, as we noted yesterday as we danced with the Torah while leaving one of our hakafot, one of our dances, completely silent in observance of what happened a year ago. And I could not help but think, as I came to think about this parsha and what I might say today, that this is an anniversary of the first sermon that I had to give after what happened on October 7th. And as I thought about the message and those messages, and all year there have been, as we've spoken about hundreds and hundreds of times, ups and downs, tears, everything that we could imagine. And one of the things that as we mark a year comes to me again and again and perhaps hits the hardest is a feeling that this just isn't what was supposed to happen. This isn't what I wanted, or anyone, of course, would want to be. And how we enter into a space of what the rabbis would call b'dei avad, a non-ideal situation, is a measure of who we are. And it's also something that happens again and again and again and again. And it started in the very beginning, because Adam and Eve, the first human beings, are created, they're put in the garden, and everything is awesome. It's amazing. It is quite literally paradise. And they make it, anyone off the top, this is a random bonus question, how long from creation to fall? Anyone? According to the rabbis, 6 hours. They make it 6, sometimes 11, sometimes 1. They make it less than half a day before they eat the apple and are kicked out. And so the project of humanity becomes, what do we do in a non-ideal situation, and how do we move forward? And God's words to humans, as we're being shown the door to Eden, is two things. First, to Eve, God says, all right, so what's going to happen now is you're going to have pain in childbirth, and you are going to have to cling to your husband. That's Eve's words. And to Adam, God says, by the sweat of your brow shall you eat bread when you go forth from this place. Okay. Now, these are often read as punishments, but I think they might also be words of advice. So Viva Zornberg, when she reads, a famous Torah scholar and commentary who lives in Israel, when she reads God saying to Eve, you are going to have to cling to your husband from now on, she reads that as saying to Eve, from this point on, you two are going to need each other. In Eden, you could go off and do what you want. He could go off and do what he wanted. You could just eat whatever you wanted. You didn't need anything. You didn't need clothes. You just, whatever you wanted. But now that you're out of the garden, the two of you are going to need each other. And then we come to Adam and the sweat of our brow. And here, commentaries kind of go a little crazy trying to understand what does it mean to say that by the sweat of your brow you will eat bread. So one of our classic commentaries, Ibn Ezra, says it's that you will now have to have something to do with all of the different things that go into making bread. Right? Bread, even though we say Amotzi lechem min haaretz, bread just comes from the earth, bread is actually one of the more complicated things that early man had to do. Right? In Eden, you just grab some fruit, you eat it, Shabbat Shalom, move on with your day. But afterwards, you have to grow some wheat. You have to thresh the wheat. I don't know what that means. You have to winnow the wheat. I also don't know what that means. It has something to do with chaff. You have to bake it. You have to mill it. First you mill it, then you bake it, right? Whatever. There's a million steps that go into making bread. And Ibn Ezra says that Adam and Eve, after getting kicked out of Eden, have to be a part of each and every one of those steps, as they didn't have to before. And then finally, to our reads of this, Kliakar, much later Polish commentary, writes that the second part of that, after that you by the sweat you're going to have to eat of your food, it says, and also in trouble will you live all the rest of the days of your life. And he does a little creative misreading of that verse and says that what you must do is trouble yourself for the days of your life. So Kliakar says what that means is God is telling Adam and Eve to look at what they are working towards. And are they working towards life, or are they working towards something empty? And so I want to go through this so when we come to a place where we are kicked out of the garden, where human beings have to leave paradise, we are told by God that what we need to do is think about the details of the way that we live our lives and the processes that go into that. We need to cling to one another, and we need to think about what our goals are. And this is important for Adam and Eve then, and it is important for all of us today. Because there is a lot for which we should and could and will be hopeful for in the year ahead. And there are also things and ways in which we have let down or are scared of letting down the hopefulness that was perhaps at the beginning of last year or the beginning of the year before that. And we as Jews in America, we are heirs to two hopeful traditions. In fact, I think I would posit that the foundation of the United States and the creation of the state of Israel are two of the most hopeful communal projects that humanity is engaged in the last quarter millennia. The idea that people could come together, build something that would be a democracy for everyone, build something that would be in America, right? That would be something that everyone could come into. And I understand there's problems at the founding and there's problems about who was meant by everyone. I understand it, but the words used, right? That we will be this beacon on a hill for all of the world, that we will create a place where everyone is created equal, where everyone has representation, right? That is an incredibly hopeful thing to think. And again, we get about 6 hours, but still, the hope that was there was true and real and important. To say nothing of the hope that was real at the foundation of the creation of the state of Israel, that people who have been oppressed for 2,000 years could find their way back to their homeland and self-govern and have autonomy and safety in that land. I want to take a second and just read to you from the Declaration of Independence of the State of Israel. As it was signed, it was said, Israel will be open for Jewish immigration, for the ingathering of exiles, will foster the development of the country for the benefit of all its inhabitants. It will be based on freedom, justice, and peace envisioned by the prophets of Israel. It will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. It will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. It will safeguard the holy places of all religions, and it will be faithful to the principles of the Charter of the United Nations. At its inception, they were reaching for everything. And everything is still possible. But we live in a world where the hope feels like it's fading, or like we have to step up for it just a little bit more than we thought that we did. Again, this document, or we could think about the Declaration of Independence of our country. I won't read it to you. I'm sure you've read it a few times. That was Eden. That was just asking for fig trees full of democracy and rights for everyone that we could just grab and pluck and eat, and it was just there. And we've seen now that we live in a world, in our land and in Israel, where we, like Adam and Eve and our ancestors before us, are going to have to do a little bit more. And in that, we take to heart the advice of Aviva Zornberg and Ibn Ezra and of Kli Yakar, as we work towards realizing the hope that was at the foundation of Israel, at the foundation of our country. We are going to need to include ourselves in all of the little things that go to making and baking the bread. We're going to have to take a step into local government. We're going to have to take a step into organizing people around us. We're going to have to take a look at all of the different things that go into making this country the amazing place that it is, and we, the Jewish people, will need to be a part of that. So too with Israel. Do we need to take into account everything that goes into making that nation the wonderful, great place that it is, and how we, even those of us here across the ocean, can be a part of that? We also need to, like Kli Yakar, think about what our goals are. What are we working towards here? What are we working towards there? Does it bring life? Does it bring us all life? Is it worthy of our labor and our effort? And then how can we work towards those wonderful goals? And also, like Eve and Aviva Zornberg, the only way that we're going to do it is if we cling to one another. If we work together, if we talk together, if we are a part of conversations about what we want to be, who we want to be, and how we're going to get there, and we commit that as we enter into this imperfect world, as everyone necessarily must, because none of us are perfect, we can only do it if we bring other imperfect people along with us together. Only then can we build this nation. Can we build the land of Israel with every dollar that we donate, with every minute that we volunteer, and every vote that we cast by the sweat of our brow? Shabbat Shalom.